Hi, I'm Steve Plach, and I'll be your host for this edition of Voices from the Village. Tonight we'll be talking about homelessness and the right to sleep. The right to sleep and the homeless community in general has really been one of the major challenges of our country, and one of the most important aspects of that is the essential right to sleep. Just recently, in fact, in a federal case in Boise, Idaho, our federal prosecutors weighed in on this issue about a camping ban case similar to camping bans that we have around here. So at some point, if we get time, we'll be talking about that. But I think we're really going to be focusing on the right to sleep here in Santa Cruz. And I'm really happy to have with me four folks who have been really in the forefront of the Freedom Sleepers movement. Freedom Sleepers is a group that came together to ask for repeal of our local camping ban, to create safe sleeping spaces, and to really work in support of homeless services that have been drastically cut here recently. One moment, let me see here. I'll reject that. But I'm really happy to have with me four of the folks who have really been working so hard on this. Israel Dawson. Israel, welcome. Abby Samuels. Abby, welcome. Rabbi Philip Posner. Rabbi, welcome. And Lucero Luna. Lucero, welcome. Lucero is actually a member of the homeless community. You know, so often we have shows here on community TV or elsewhere where we talk about the prison system, where you talk about social services, you talk about things, and you really don't have anybody on the show who is impacted by that on a very personal level. And I think, if anything, being amongst the Freedom Sleepers and actually staying out overnight has impressed on all of us what a challenge that is, how exhausting it is to be homeless in Santa Cruz every night. We do have, to start out, just to give you an idea of what the Freedom Sleepers have been doing, a short clip that was produced by Israel. So if we show that, and then we'll come back and we'll start our conversation. So when we come back, I'll just...
Can I get something out of my backpack?
No, because you have to unhook.
Can I ask Gabby? Can I ask you to get my backpack?
Which, Mom?
Struggling to pay rent today, in the streets tomorrow. Promised land.
Don't take the sleeping bag away yet because we want to put your name on
Abby
it.
got Sears to give this to us
For 20% off.
for 20% off.
It's like a sheet. Is that good enough? All right. Yeah, yeah. Everybody wants that first. Okay. So let's just put the what do you think?
What was wrong with this one? If you start at the ground floor.
Absolute hand-holding on every step.
So Israel, thanks for...
There's only one way to find out.
Are we ready? Let me turn that down because that is just a nuisance. That is a short clip that Israel Dawson produced. Israel, you've been the videographer and documenting kind of the Freedom Sleepers movement in Santa Cruz from the beginning. That, of course, was footage of our very first overnight sleep-in at City Hall on July 4th. So tell us a little bit about your background as a videographer and kind of how you got involved, you know, to be the documentarian for the group.
Well, yes, I experienced homelessness twice in my life, once in 4th grade, all through high school. Kind of then went and started working in a, a 9-to-5 job, and basically a 9-to-5 job, and after that I went back to school, and basically in 2004 I made a documentary on homeless community in Santa Cruz, just,
Oh, okay.
in a learning process. And then I've kind of lived in Santa Cruz and worked at Trader Joe's for the last 6.5 years. And then I went back to school, and I'm going back and documenting the Freedom Sleepers, and also trying to focus on people experiencing homelessness and the change that's happened since the recession of 2008, and how that has impacted the homeless community, changed the demographic, put so much more people out on the street, and my mom's here tonight, and she experienced homelessness. She got it, and the way we got out, we got into HUD housing, and from there she was able to go back to school. Now she teaches disability for special ed in Orange County.
Good,
And
yeah.
I went back to school and got all this way, and went through high school experiencing homelessness. And the things that got me here where I am today in grad school at UCSC doing a documentary on the homeless community is not there now. I couldn't go through the pathway of getting into HUD. HUD's shutting down. There's less affordable housing. Food stamps has been scaled back, or Fresh Start. And so basically, they've got rid of the bog fee waiver, or they're going to, and these things really helped me get out. And it's actually worsened since I experienced it to today. And the people today are going through a whole different thing with technology taking away middle class jobs. There's just this huge impact, and a lot of the people are just older people. There's a lot of older people who are fully capable of working, and there's no jobs.
Right,
They're just hiring the younger people in the community, or the
Well, it's important,
jobs,
I think, to have video record of kind of what's happening and the changing dynamic in the homeless community. Abby Samuels, welcome back. You and I have worked together in Occupy Santa Cruz and a number of different things in SCRAM, Santa Cruz Resistance Against Militarization. And it was actually the Food Not Bombs, of which you're the co-founder of the local chapter. With
Not
Keith,
co-founder.
No co-founder?
No, I was joking.
Okay, anyway.
Oh.
Your partner, we have to mention Keith McKenna,
Yes.
who's the founder of the global Food Not Bombs.
Yes.
But it was really Food Not Bombs that stepped up when homeless services were reduced at the end of June here in July, that started the first emergency breakfast, and that kind of out of that grew the Freedom Sleepers movement. Tell us kind of the evolution of that a little bit.
Yeah, well, when we heard that the Homeless Services Center was being shut down, or that was the news that we heard at the time back, I'm not sure when it was it March?
Yeah, about
June
that.
26th.
Yeah.
29, June 29.
Yeah.
But we heard about it, I think, in March,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so what we decided to do is create awareness by having emergency breakfast. One of the things, so we had, I think it was 3 emergency breakfasts over at the corner of River Highway 1 and Route 9.
River Street Extension.
The
there,
River
yeah.
Street
Uh-huh,
Extension.
yeah.
So we had 3 emergency breakfasts there, which were pretty successful in the sense that about maybe around 30 to 50 people had breakfast with us, even though they might have had we had coffee and quite an extensive breakfast. So that's the one way. That's when it all started off. And in fact, I just want to mention this, that I'm not sure how much the public knows how much of Homeless Services Center has shut down, because they said they received some
please.
grants. They said
Absolutely.
they received some grants from the county. My numbers, I think it was $650,000 that they were short. They received some money from the county. I think it was $350,000. They were still short, and the reason they were so much in the red is one of the reasons was partly because of the fence that they built, and they didn't receive any other grants that they expected. And then the Sentinel wrote an article saying, oh, they're getting, Polyloft isn't being closed down.
Right.
So they kind of softened it. But what the public really doesn't know is that, or most of the public, by reading that article, it seems that everything is fine. But the day services, which was huge,
Right.
is being closed,
Yeah.
was closed down. That gate now locks people out.
Yeah.
So they no longer have food. I think they were feeding anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 people a week.
300?
No, a week.
A week, yeah,
A week.
okay, right.
And now I heard it's 15 people.
Yeah.
I don't know, a few times. It used to be breakfast and dinner, but Lucero would know more about the details of that and their showers. So there are a lot more people going hungry.
Yes.
This is horrible. And plus, the Poly Loft is now just for transitional housing. It's
Exactly,
only 2/3 full. You know even more detailed information on that, Steve, because you spoke to Jen and
Thomas, yeah.
Thomas. So at any event, it's horrendous that there's no place actually to go to sleep. That's used only for people that have case managers that have a pathway to housing, and there's not even enough case managers out there, so the loft isn't even full. So now we have empty beds.
Yep.
I mean, this is crazy. So now we have empty beds and people sleeping out on the street, and there's no waiting list anymore for the Coral Street shelter.
And still, there's an argument about, well, do people have a right to sleep? And that's what the Freedom Sleepers, one of the things that the Freedom Sleeper works so hard for, is that sleep is a basic right. And particularly now, when there are no places to sleep in emergency beds, the people have to have safe, secure, and maybe Lucero can tell us more about that when we get around to, what it's like being out on the street, and particularly being a woman out on the street. But Phil, let's talk to you for just a second. You are the father of Micah Posner, a city council member here, and you have been working on the Camp of Last Resort, which was originally and still is an idea that you and I have both talked to city council members about creating safe sleeping spaces for people. So tell us, how you came to do that and how you became part of the Freedom Sleeper movement.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm glad that you asked me because I wouldn't be doing this without your help.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Steve's been a big part of it. We're now calling it Homeless Depot.
Yeah, there you go.
We called it Camp of Last Resort, but we shifted the name. And basically, our position is, as you enunciated, and Abby, it's just unethical for a community like Santa Cruz to have 17 parks, 30 parks that approximate 116 acres of land, 2 of which are for dogs, but no place for homeless people to sleep.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable. So our position is that we think that the city should come up with at least a couple of acres out of 30 parks, 116 acres where people can lay down at night. Our position is that it's not, as you know, Steve, it's not a real answer to the issue of homelessness, but it's better than what we have right now because it provides an opportunity for temporary place and secure. We would have police presence there, social worker, et cetera. So that's what we're concerned about.
And Lucero, thank you so much for being here. As I mentioned, so often we do these shows that have advocates for various things, and you don't really have any of the people that they're advocating for. But you are a member of the homeless community here in Santa Cruz. Tell us what your challenges are day to day about trying to find a place to sleep, about trying to find services, about just trying to get along, and as much importance of being a woman out on the streets.
Yes, well, it is difficult. I do still have a car. However, it's pretty hard to hide it from residents that are housed or businesses. So I get threats that they're going to call the police. And so I was just last Sunday, I think it was, I was at Capitol Mall, and someone called security, I suppose. I was taking a nap in the car, and so security came, and I was woken up by listening to the license plates on my car. He was calling the police to have it checked, and then he said, "Oh, hi, are you sleeping there?" He says, "I can't really see you, so I'm afraid. I don't know what you're doing. I'm afraid." And I said, "Yeah." And so he asked me if I had any business there, and I said, "Yes, I actually do. I'm picking up some glasses." So he asked me when I was going to go to attend to my business. I said, "Now." So he says, okay, yeah, you have to do it now, otherwise I'm going to have to give you a citation. So I took the opportunity to not go to attend to my business, but walk around the mall, and I was advertising the Freedom Sleepers movement at City Hall. So I did that for a while. And just as far as the homeless service center, yes, it was countless of people that were consumers. I was one. I was lucky to get into the emergency beds first, and then I got in the 30-day for almost 2 months before it ended. And so they serve breakfast and dinner, but the biggest necessity were the showers. So.
Yeah. Well, let's see.
I have not had a shower, a real shower, since the day they closed until last night, thanks to Abby.
Yeah, yeah. And Abby, tell us about that, if you will. The Food Not Bombs, one of the things that you have done, and this is an initiative from Food Not Bombs, and not necessarily Freedom Sleepers. You actually have showers over at Food Not Bombs. A shower.
No,
portable
she's talking
shower.
about something else.
Yeah.
Lucera's talking about, sorry, we do have portable showers
Right.
at Food Not Bombs, but it's horrendous. I did not know this until Lucera just said this, that the last time she had a shower is when it closed. When did it close? June 29th.
June 29th.
June
So
29th.
June 29th. What's the date now? August what?
9th, August 9th.
August
today.
9th. She hasn't had a shower. The reason she had a shower because I let her stay at my house because she was feeling really sick yesterday. She was exhausted. She has chronic fatigue, and I have several friends who have houses that have chronic fatigue, and they can't move.
Right.
I know what it's like from hearing it from my friends, let alone not having a place to sleep and being bothered every single second and being afraid that they're going to knock on your window or knock if you're sleeping. It's inhumane what we're doing to people. And so the Freedom Sleepers to me is not about getting a park. The Freedom Sleepers to me is about, for right now, the immediate thing is to ban the sleeping ban and
Right.
ban the camping ban.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I think we should have housing
Right.
personally for people. We should have, it's inexcusable for what we're doing in Europe. They take care of people. Here, they do not take care of people. They give you, they're not homeless people on the streets begging. They take care of them.
Phil?
Abby, we obviously agree with you. The long-term solution is to have decent housing. But the fact is that this community is not anywhere close to a long-term solution. So we think that at least the park possibility is an option.
That's fine. I'm just saying that that's not what the Freedom Sleepers
Right.
is about. The Freedom Sleepers is about being able to sleep wherever, whenever. It's not necessarily about a solution
right,
based.
right.
Whether
It's
it's
all
being,
part of it.
whether it's a park or whether it's a house or whatever it is.
On the sidewalk.
That's not what it's about. It's about that people treat, the criminalization of the homeless should stop.
And I think that's a really good point. One of the things the Freedom Sleepers has done is they've had 4 community campouts at the City Hall, petitioning the government, saying the Freedom Sleepers demand that the camping ban be repealed. And then I think to glimpse what it would look like when the camping ban, I do not say if, I say when the camping ban is repealed, then we can look at, we've got to create safe sleeping space for people. And I think you're exactly right, that is what the Freedom Sleepers are trying to do. That's what the movement is all about. And recently, interestingly, the federal government and the Department of Justice has chimed in on this, which the Freedom Sleepers have found very encouraging. Let me read what the attorney in the Boise case for the government said. He said, "It should be uncontroversial that punishing conduct that is universal and unavoidable consequence of being human violates the 8th Amendment. It's a foregone conclusion that human life requires certain acts, among them sleeping." You know, and they went on to say some other interesting things about camping bans themselves, and I do think that's an important point about this, you know, Freedom Sleepers and what they're doing. You can tell us a little bit, if you like, about what's going to happen next Tuesday,
Yeah.
because I think it's very exciting. And I will also say that the sleep, our good friend Ed Fry has been talking about the right to sleep for a long period of time, but I do think that it's particularly important now, and it's something that everybody is talking about. You were just recently on Occupy Radio. You're going to be on with Bruce Bratton on Tuesday. So there is a lot more attention to sleeping, the right to sleep, and repealing the camping ban is a step in that right. So tell us about
Right.
Tuesday.
So Tuesday, we're going to sleep at City Hall.
Oh, let me see if this
All right.
You're on Voices from the Village with the Freedom Sleepers.
Hello. Yeah, this is Keith McHenry.
Welcome, Keith.
Right.
I had to interrupt Abby to get you on the phone, so I hope she doesn't mind.
So he's part of the, Keith is part of the Freedom
Yes,
Sleepers.
Keith is one of the original founders of Freedom Sleepers. Keith, how are you, and what have you got to say for us today?
Well, I think this is pretty profound, this ruling in Idaho, that the people that it's an Eighth Amendment violation of the U.S. Constitution to criminalize people for living on the streets, something that they have to do. And you know, as a person who has lived on the streets, obviously you have to sleep, obviously you have to go to the restroom, obviously you need to eat, and they should not have laws restricting that. And I know that, you know, in Santa Cruz, it's very brutal, the legal situation, and, you know, and some people have actually done quite a bit of time. And I think also, you know, you get sleeping tickets and stuff like that. Maybe it's not so bad right at the beginning, but it can just become a huge problem over time because you get warrants and so on.
Yeah, and that's so true. I know that you've been with us on a couple of different sleepouts and, in fact, received a ticket at the first sleepout yourself. You did not?
He wasn't at the first one.
Oh, but you did.
I did.
Okay. Then Abby received a ticket on your behalf.
Yes, she did, and I was fortunately gardening in Taos, New Mexico at the time.
Well, thank you for calling in. You have any particular question for any one of our panelists that comes to mind?
Well, the one thing is, it's my understanding that there's going to be another sleep out, and coming up on Tuesday, and every Tuesday, and that the idea is to really press the point that the civil rights of the homeless should be respected. And I was wondering if there's been any indication since we've been doing this, of the city council having starting to get worried or having any comments or you know, giving any indication that we're starting to have some impact.
Okay, thanks, Keith, and hurry back to us. We miss you.
Yep, I'll be back for Willing to Rip the Rest, sleeping out in front of City Hall. Not this Tuesday, and I'm not sure next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after that.
Okay, we'll be there. Thanks, pal. Appreciate it. So, Phil?
Bye.
To answer Keith's question, I don't think the city council is worried about the issue, sad to say, but I think there has been lately a little bit of momentum to the possibility of dealing with the ordinance and other opportunities for better opportunities. So I think we're getting some momentum, but that's why this Tuesday we plan to address city council. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to read some of that important document.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we hope that people will join us and support us for this issue because it's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable for people to not have a place to sleep.
Yeah. You know, I will say personally that when we had our first sleep out on July 4th, and of course we had 22 police officers that responded in the middle of the night chasing us around, and it really brought dramatic impact to me about how exhausting it is to be homeless, about how difficult it is to lay your head down and know that you're going to be roused at a certain point, to know you can't get a decent night's sleep, know that at some point somebody's going to want to be there to move you along, and on top of the fact that that's night after night, and you have all of the things, your belongings with you, that has got to be a tremendous burden for somebody who is on the street night after night, and it became dramatically clear to me just for that one night. I had not frankly realized that.
Right. Yeah, sleep deprivation is, you know, someone said that certain people that are unhoused and on shelter are not very respectful of police officers and security. And I said, excuse me, obviously you must be housed, okay? Because, I mean, if I was to sit on the bench and elevate my foot, my left foot is reconstructed from my knee down, and I have to elevate it once in a while. But if they come and tell you have to take the whole space, that you have to put your belongings underneath you.
Yeah.
But if I put how can I respect everyone like this? Excuse me, I have a reason to elevate my foot, right? To rest it.
Let me get this friend, and we'll come right back to you. You're on with the Freedom Sleepers. You have a question for him?
Comment.
Oh, please.
Hi, I'm actually one of the Freedom Sleepers.
Yes, you are.
A ticket. My name is Robert, and it's interesting to me that they're not giving tickets at this event when they ticket us at City Hall for actually sleeping, because I think they're maybe a little bit on the defensive. They haven't given us one ticket for violating the sleeping ban, though they are happy to give out those tickets to homeless people in other places in the city. Instead, they don't like the idea that we are at City Hall with our protest signs, with our petitions, trying to read their agendas on the city government public property at night. They've created a law that makes it illegal to be there. That's what they have been ticketing us for, and I'd like to get the comments of the council, I should say your council, frankly it's a better council than the council we got at City Hall, on that issue. And I'll hang up and take my issue on the air.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. And I think it's a good point, that they're not ticketing the Freedom Sleepers for camping ban violations or ticketing for being in a park after hours. And that may speak to an awareness, perhaps on the part of city government and by extension the police department, that there is an important issue of the right to sleep that's at stake, and there's something that maybe they're internally examining somehow.
Lucero, did you get to finish?
Yeah, please finish with your story. You were having your feet up and
yeah, right. But see, the thing is, I can say that I've had enjoyed the privilege of not looking homeless, whatever the look might be.
Right.
So, but yeah, if I carry my somewhat belongings, then yes, so I'm profile as a homeless person, and therefore I have less rights, like the right to elevate my foot on the bench and take the whole bench, and otherwise we have to sit up straight and put our belongings under the bench or underneath ourselves.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is about respect. Respect for me is earned, and so when police officers just you can't sit there. We cannot sit there's the trees down Pacific, and it has a little surrounding cemented area. You can't sit there. We have to go somewhere else where it's more suitable.
Yeah. And I think you make an interesting point. I was talking to Ryan Althouse, who is the new development director for Homeless Garden Project, the other night, the first time I met him. And he's from out of town and just came into town, has been hired by Homeless Garden Project, and a terrific guy. He says that he is just shocked at how much stereotyping there is about homeless people here. He says has never seen in his experience, and I don't want to quote him verbatim, but I will say that he was shocked at the level of stereotyping that Santa Cruz has for its homeless community. Yes?
Yes, my experience has been that this is the most negative, the most abusive environment to be here at Santa Cruz. I've been in Ventura County. I was a full-time advocate there, undercover homeless for the people, Surfers Point of Ventura. Then I went to Venice, California, and I stopped at San Diego. Well, I went to San Diego and came back all the way here. And yes, definitely this is over there I was able to rest, they didn't have all this not overnight parking ordinances. So yeah, there was more freedom there than there is here, definitely.
And there is some light at the end of the tunnel. There's a bill in the California legislature that's going to permit people to sleep in their vehicles if they're legally parked in all other respects. And that's passed the Assembly and it's now in the Senate, so there's some hope for that. But as we all know, the Right to Rest Act, and before that the Homeless Bill of Rights, was stalled in committee by the League of California Cities. It says, you just can't have this. We can't have people, sleeping. And so that really has made it very difficult to get any kind of legislation through.
Yeah, what's happening here is people don't want to see homeless people for several reasons. First of all, it's scary in the sense that maybe someday they might be homeless, because a lot of people are only one paycheck away from being homeless. Also, I think people are afraid because it just doesn't look like up to par like they want everything all pretty and nice. And that's another reason. And I think a third reason is people are afraid because they don't know, they never really spoke to someone who's homeless. And the biggest thing I think is doing Food Not Bombs for the last 2 years. The biggest thing to me is a lot of people have become my friends, and I am blown away how not different people are. And there's a lot of people that have mentally ill problems, substance abuse, but almost everyone. So I encourage people to come and share food, whether it's at a local church or at Food Not Bombs, to get to know people. They're not scary.
Where does Food Not
Not
Bombs
scary.
meet? Where does Food
So
Not-
we share food at the post office every Saturday and Sunday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m.
And while we're here talking about that very important work that's being done, make sure that if people know that are watching this program that there is an action. The Freedom Sleepers are going to be at City Hall. Tell us about that.
So I want to continue on that
Please.
topic. So yes, City Hall. This Tuesday and every Tuesday, beginning at 3, going on until the next morning with breakfast at, I believe, 7:30 in the morning. And we'll have food all night long. We usually have peanut butter and jelly and sandwiches and pastries and donuts and stuff like that. We'll have, I heard we're going to, and coffee. I heard that we might have I'm not sure if we're going to have some kind of announcement. We'll have a meeting. We're also going to be going, I heard we're going to have, I wasn't here at the last meeting. That's what the last General Assembly we had on this topic. But I heard there's a fashion show.
Oh, really? There you go.
That's what I heard, that they voted on a fashion show, so wear your pajamas. So if you come, please dress in some pajamas. And if you want to talk to the city council about this, but especially this Boise,
exactly.
This just happened a few days ago. This it's not a ruling, but it's what's it called, Steve? You know more.
This is called, and I get the cover page out here. It's
called something informational, but. What
it's a statement of interest of the United States of America. The Justice Department, because these are matters of national interest, has the ability lawfully to weigh in on these issues, and they have done so in this case, Hall versus City of Boise, which is all about ruling whether or not their camping bans are constitutional.
Essentially, to me, what they're saying, it's really written in layman terms. It's really amazing. It's the first time I've ever been able to read something and understood it. That's a lawsuit, a case. But anyway, what it essentially is saying is that because we are, when you give people tickets for camping or sleeping and they have no other place to go, you're criminalizing homelessness. And there's a lot of things we're doing. They put
yes, electronic mosquitoes, so to discourage campers on the open space.
Treating people as mosquitoes. I mean, it makes me so angry. This is horrible. It's insanity.
And I know that,
insanity.
Phil?
So I just want to say that, I think it's hopefully clear that we're doing this because we want to put pressure on the city council to get rid of the ordinance. But we need community help. So we're hoping that people from the community will come and be with us. We want people to also know that you kind of have a choice if you want to get cited. Some of us have been cited, some of us have not. If people come, and and the police come and they're asked to move, if they move, they don't get cited. But they're there to show support and solidarity for the homeless people that are there. I want to share with you that today, as some of you know, I'm an author of a book, and I sell my book. I met a guy downtown who was really interested in the issue, and he wants to know more when our issue comes up before city council, he wants to come to the meeting.
Right. Yeah.
So hopefully he's even listening today and saying, yeah, you know, I may come down to City Hall and,
Yeah.
and support the issue.
And I think it's worth noting that the Freedom Sleepers are supported by the homeless community. As you noted, I think earlier, 2/3 of the people who are sleeping out with the Freedom Sleepers at night are homeless folks. The homeless community is supporting. The homeless community is attending the General Assemblies. Homeless people are speaking up for once and having their say. And I think that's extremely important. And one thing that we will be doing, the Freedom Sleepers, and again, I'll speak as a Freedom Sleeper, that we're going to be reading portions of this particular statement by the Justice Department to our City Council, saying that this is the changing future of the right to sleep. And you should be aware that the law is changing, that the attitudes are changing, that, you know, that the opportunity is there for you to get out ahead of this perhaps and look at your camping ban and revise it in ways that are going to reflect what the current law is going to be. And I think that's an important opportunity for the Freedom Sleepers. One of the things that we had on the video that Israel took was you passing out sleeping bags and Phil standing next to him, sleeping bags and tarps. Tell us more, because that was the first sleep out. It was terrific. We have another clip that's mostly me talking. We don't really need to show that, but it was a description at the second GA of that particular July 4th event, which I thought was just tremendous. Tell us about that, because that was great.
Yeah. Well, what we decided to do was actually, I can't take credit. I wish I could, but it was actually truly a person who has who's left the community, Stefan. He actually brought up the idea at one of our meetings. He was involved. He said, we're going to have sleeping bag storage. We're going to take care of you. We're going to make sure that you're okay, because he's so upset that the shelter was closing. And we go, then he left, and we're like, oh, we were depending on him. He said he rented storage for us, not for us, but for the people.
Right.
And we were going to work together as a team.
Right.
And when he disappeared, we said, well, what do we do? We go, oh, well, we'll just do it ourselves. So we went ahead and bought the sleeping bags, which, you know, we spent some money on that. We can't afford to keep on doing that. So if people could donate, we would like to get more sleeping bags, because that was a big hit. So we gave out sleeping bags to people that slept there. And of course, a lot of people didn't bring them back. And that lasted for about 2-3 weeks that we had enough sleeping bags for some of the people. And we rented a U-Haul for storage. We had a porta potty. We are probably going to get another porta potty, which I haven't told you. I did find a porta potty that might give us a good deal on having one with lights and backup lights.
And of course, in the video that people saw originally, that was the porta potty that we had, the tote behind Ed Fry's truck, and we had all kind of problems with that, all kind of interaction. Not necessarily problems, but interaction. Of course, Abby was using it along the way to welcome people into the porta potty as it was being stopped by the police. But Israel, you know, just for a moment, having been homeless in Santa Cruz, do you see if there is more stereotyping going on now than perhaps that you have witnessed in the past for of the homeless community, or has it just kind of been a gradual growth of that?
I feel like there's been a gradual growth, but also there's been an immense growth within the community, and a lot of people that are experiencing homelessness are people that are able to work, who just can't find jobs that are out there, and you can't find a stable system to get out of homelessness. Just, you know, affordable housing should be the first, you know, and then a job. And that's the biggest thing, is in Santa Cruz, there's no jobs that you can pay for housing, because there's no affordable housing in Santa Cruz. The whole Bay Area is being gentrified, and housing is becoming more and more expensive and leaving a lot of people out. And a lot of the homeless people in Santa Cruz have lived here all their lives.
Well, and that's true. The Homeless Census Survey will tell you every year that 82% of all the people who are unsheltered and homeless in Santa Cruz tonight were residents of Santa Cruz before they became homeless. It's a homegrown population. These are our friends and neighbors. These aren't people who are just kind of, you know, moving through and absorbing services and not really caring about the community. These are community members, you know, that we really want to take care of. I do want to mention Lauren, your wife.
Oh, yes.
And she has gotten a PayPal for us, so people can contribute to the Freedom Sleepers using a PayPal doohickey that we have. So it is important for Freedom Sleepers, I think, to be able to raise a little bit of money, to be able to buy maybe more sleeping bags, and really kind of keep this movement going. Phil? So thank you to Lauren for that.
I
Brilliant.
wanted
It's
to
much
mention, I hope
appreciated.
I'm not going to embarrass you, but
No, of course
Steve wrote a very nice article that's in today's paper. And I was wondering if you would talk a little bit about the whole issue of the government emphasis now on the housing first model and how that affects Santa Cruz.
Well, one of the things that happened at Homeless Services Center was that they have always been a shelter model, a maintenance model, and so that's the way they've been able to fund themselves. When the federal government and the state government decided that every dollar that was being appropriated for homeless services was going to be tied to how much it moved people from homelessness into housing, then they had to change the whole model around. What the practical effect has been is that now, as you mentioned earlier, Abby, Pauley Loft is no longer an emergency shelter. Those 46, and with the ADA extra 50 beds, are now housing transitional. They are no longer shelter. They are housing transitional facilities. And so we can't forget the fact that there are people on the street. You mentioned earlier, and Ursula, you mentioned that unemployment is the #1 cause of homelessness. We are all prospectively one paycheck away from homelessness. When that happens, even if we want to get back in the employment market, even if we want to try to get into a pathway for housing, there is no shelter for people like Lucero, people out in the community, just to get some rest, to get themselves ready for the next day, to get back into a system that might improve their economic circumstance, that might improve them. So. And that's what I was alluding to here, the difference really between shelter and housing. It's very important not to abandon a shelter model as part of a holistic
There's good
approach.
pieces in the paper today, so people can read.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Lucera?
Yeah, I just want to respond to the employment and get into rehouse or whatever. It's the thing is, once you put a known address for the homeless, that's it. That's the end. And not even organizations, nonprofits will accept you as a volunteer if they know you're homeless. I am a volunteer in the community officially because I turned in my application with my fingerprints, results of FBI, Department of Justice and everything, to make sure that I'm not a criminal. And so it was turned, the application, the background check was turned in at the same time I had the interview, so there was no time to check my address. And so that's
how you got the job.
That's what I got, a volunteer job.
Yeah.
Fundme.com.
Fundme.com. Yeah.
Yeah.
Might want to check that out.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lucera, for saying that. And again, we go back to this fine statement of interest from the Department of Justice, which the Freedom Sleepers will be reading on Tuesday at City Council.
Yes.
But let me read just one other excerpt from it. It says, "Sleeping is a life-sustaining activity. That is, it must occur at some time and in some place. If a person literally has no place else to go, then enforcement of the anti-camping ordinance against that person criminalizes him or her for simply being homeless." And that's exactly
Yes.
what we're talking about here in Santa Cruz. It is the criminalization of homelessness itself.
And one of the last things it states in there, which is really important, is that what it does when you start putting people away or giving them tickets is there an endless cycle. And just like Lucera just explained, now her address is in a system.
Right.
If anyone does
My
a credit
face.
report, that's it. They're going to see, oh, she was homeless. And there is a whole, it is discriminating.
Yeah.
And you can't prove something like that. They didn't hire you because you had 115D Coral Street on your
And really one of the
resume.
things that, and again, people should come to City Council on Tuesday and really hear excerpts of this read because it is powerful words. One of the things that we're saying is that the camping bans themselves are just economically non-viable because they criminalize not only homeless folks who really can't afford to respond to this in any way, but that also takes up time of the city park rangers and the city police and the court systems. It's just completely
Yes.
unnecessary. That it's an economic burden on the entire system that really we could do certainly without. Phil?
As a matter of fact, on February 20th, there was a fine article in the Sentinel, "Criminalization of Homeless is Expensive and Unproductive." It was a really important statement. One of the reasons that we're saying that this is an issue of conscience is because we hope that people out there will empathize with homeless. We were talking before about why so many people are indifferent or frightened. I personally think that a lot of it is something called xenophobia, and it's just fear of the unknown, or the fear of the stranger.
Right. Yeah.
I know, Abby, you beautifully talked about, well, all the great work that you do, but in the years that you've been doing Food Not Bombs, you talked about, meeting people and realizing that they're human, just like all of us, whether they're homeless or not. I've discovered that too. As a rabbi, I've really learned a lot about my own self and my connection with people, and to try to overcome my, kind of fear when I'm meeting someone who, is wearing a lot of clothing and it's different than me. And I discover, hey, the person's wearing a lot of clothing and he may be homeless, but he's a human being just like me.
And I think that's a wonderful point to make. Our good friend Mel Nunes always talks about, who is a coordinator for the Faith Community Shelter, which is one of the few shelters that really operates now through the faith communities. They provide a dinner and a breakfast for the folks who stay over, and he says, come in and take a meal with a person.
Right.
Come in and talk to somebody. Not only just bring and serve a meal. Come in and sit down and talk to them. Talk to a homeless person. And I think that's one of the values of the Freedom Sleeper movement itself, is that it really is based within the homeless community. We're there, and I'm proud and privileged to be there. But the people that you talk to, overnight, you get a chance to sit around and talk to people about the challenges, talk to them, experience what they literally walk a mile in their shoes, and that you really don't get to do every day. And I don't know whether we're asking everybody to do that, but I think we're asking everybody to consider that perspective, at least.
Kind of connected to that, I think it's really important for people to realize, if they don't know, how many churches are involved in feeding people, along with Food Not Bombs.
Right.
The wonderful things that, Calvary does on Monday evenings. And it's an opportunity to meet people.
Right.
They're not only feeding them, but people will get to meet people.
Yeah. And I think it's important, the Freedom Sleepers is a coalition. It's Food Not Bombs, it's Huff, Robert Norris called in. It's the Camp of Last Resort, Homeless Depot, it's the Homeless Persons Legal Assistance Project. But it's a lot of folks, who would really like to, make council understand that it's time to look at the camping ban again and really repeal that. And let's move on.
Not to take organizations like Food Not Bombs for granted. I wish Abby would maybe spend a minute or two just talking about what is involved in Saturday and Sunday, doing all that, having all that.
Absolutely, we'd be happy to hear that. It really is. Oh, I'm sorry. We have and we'll get back to that. Do we have a question from John Maher? John?
And I'm from Waterville. I used to live in Santa Cruz. I used to be homeless also. And these rules and laws and these bans, it kind of reminds me of somebody. Of Adolf Hitler, and because he did a lot of this stuff. He kept people up all the time, kept them awake for 3 or 4 days in a row, and didn't feed them, didn't give them water. We're a bunch of Hitlers here in Santa Cruz, or in California, or wherever there's homeless and sleeping bans and crap like that, because, Hitler did that. And we killed him for that, or we went to war for it and all. This is the same kind of stuff for Hitlers here in California. Thank you.
Well, and I think the point is that you really have to fight your battles against the state, and the state is the person, the people who are really imposing these draconian and really onerous laws, and they really have to be fought at whatever level that you can.
Does it happen, do communities affect these onerous laws because they really think that property rights are more important than human beings and others? Why is it, for example, what was the name of that state organization that you said that, put down?
The League of California Cities.
Is the mentality such that they're saying that their economic concerns are more important than the suffering of human beings? And does our city council buy into that? And so, is that, how do you see it?
don't have a long history here in Santa Cruz, but I will tell you that my observation has been is that property rights are elevated over human rights, and I think there's no question about that. I do believe that in many communities where they've made some real strides in helping the homeless community for more positive outcomes, the business community actually buys into that. The retailers, the tourist industry, they say, well, let us help a little bit. Here in Santa Cruz, that's almost entirely absent. And that's just my observation of what I've seen. So yes, I do think there is a distinct elevation of property rights, of real property rights over human rights in Santa Cruz.
And the interesting
sorry to
thing
say.
is, the interesting thing is that if we can provide shelter, and I'm not saying that the solution of the parks is the total answer, but if we provide a place for shelter, in a way, we're helping the business interests because there will be a place, and and homeless people will not be all over the streets, blah 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 blah.
What I think people think, this is my observation. They don't want them here.
Yeah.
Leave Santa Cruz. Go somewhere else where there's more shelters. Just go to the middle of the valley or somewhere. Go to Sacramento, and people send their buses to They put people that are homeless on buses to other cities. Then they land at a city, they don't know anyone, they don't have any resources. Their resources are here.
Right.
They have a right, just like everyone else, to be here. And like you said, most of the people, 80% of the people are from here. There are more homeless people that come here, I heard, from the summer, you know, but for the most part, and they use the same statement in every single city. In the middle of the winter in Cleveland, everyone comes here because they love Cleveland. They love the winters in Cleveland. And most of the people here aren't from Cleveland that are homeless. So it's all over the place that they're doing this.
And I think it's a really good point. The programs you're talking about are euphemistically referred to as homeward bound programs. They say, people, as someone is homeless in a community, they say, well, have you lived somewhere else? So we'll give you a ticket and you go back there. What they don't realize is their support systems are here.
Right.
And I do think that one of the signal features of the Freedom Sleepers is as a support system for the homeless community. We want the camping ban repealed. We would like to create safe sleeping spaces when that camping ban is repealed. But primarily right now, the work that you're doing, the work Lucera's doing, the work everybody's doing, is as a support system for the homeless community.
Right.
And that's why I do think that the homeless community has supported the Freedom Sleepers in what they're doing.
And I want to say how we came up with the name.
Please do. Yeah,
90% of us wanted the name. One person wasn't that happy, but said okay. Well, this is really kind of important. It
is important.
We have a freedom
rider.
A freedom rider, Phil, who's very humble about it.
Absolutely.
But there's only like 300 freedom riders.
Yeah, about a little bit more than that.
That's not very many.
Sad to say, a lot of them are not alive anymore.
A lot of them not alive, and they just had a reunion of the freedom riders recently this year. But what was it?
3 years ago.
Oh, it was 3 years ago. Okay. So anyway, this is it's fighting for the civil rights back then of blacks back then in the 60s. Well, now we're fighting for the rights of homelessness and the right to sleep, the right to be homeless, the right, so that's where I thought it was such a great name, especially. But we have a little credibility having Phil with us.
And I think Phil has said it as well as anyone that really this is a call to conscience. And you're evoking your freedom rider history when you're talking about, in your wonderful letter to the editor recently, the Sentinel, talking about it's being a call to conscience.
Well, and that's why, when we make this appeal to the city, as incredibly important as this document may be, I really think that, there's some definitely people on our city council who obviously have a sense of conscience, and we may be able to, especially if people join us, we may be able to appeal to that sense of consciousness and a sense of rightness that this is, that they have a role to help alleviate suffering in our community. Big time role.
Yeah, and I think your son, certainly Micah, has been very supportive of the right to sleep. He has, at this point anyway, scant support on council, but it's a start. And I think that through our lobbying, through our effort, through the Freedom Sleepers' efforts, through that call to conscience, through your son's excellent efforts, we are going to be able to get some traction on this, and this is really going to be something that will happen.
And the grand jury findings. We didn't talk about that, but they had found that that Santa Cruz wasn't helping the homeless people here. And some of the findings were that they need people to write fund writers, grant writers,
yeah. Right,
sorry.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And they need case managers. And we are not helping the people here like we should. So it's been a total failure
We're
as far
going
as
to
the grand
have to,
jury.
thank you, Abby. We're going to wrap it up now. We're in less than our 30 seconds. Thank you all so much for being here. This is such an important topic. We need to talk about the right to sleep. And it's wonderful work, I think, that the Freedom Sleepers are doing. I'm proud to be a part of it. And Phil, I think, says it at best, it is a call to conscience that we're continuing to make. So thank you, Israel, for your continuing good works. To be a video documentarian of this, it's going to be terrific, I think, really showing kind of the evolution of how a movement like this starts. And when we succeed, when it does succeed, you'll be able to show that as a definitive example of how to do that in other communities. So Abby Samuels, thank you, and Keith McHenry, for so much of the good work you do with Food Not Bombs and with the Freedom Sleepers. Phil, great work that you're always doing with the Camp Last Resort and Freedom Sleepers, and thank you so much for your work as a Freedom Rider in the past. We are all very fortunate to have you with us. And Lucera, thank you for being here. And thank you for being there with us all the time and sleeping out on that uncomfortable bench that you sleep at, stone bench. Thank you for being there and exemplifying what it means, to be homeless in Santa Cruz as a human being. So we thank you.
And literally carrying signs.
Thank you so much for being with us on this program. I've been Steve Plach, and we invite you to come back in a couple of weeks and see one of our other programs. And thanks again for watching Voices from the Village. Good night. Report back. I think that, as you know, we were here, decided to take our action over to City Hall. Unfortunately, one of the folks in the motorhome was stopped right up the road. Ed and his car was stopped right around Cooper Street, so that took half an hour or so. Finally, the police decided they would give us an escort to City Hall. So escort over to City Hall, where we commenced to pass out tarps to everybody, sleeping bags to everybody, put some food out. It was in my view, a tremendously successful event in that we had maybe 25, 30 campers, of which maybe 2/3 were homeless folks, not just the housed. So it was wonderful to have them, and there were more homeless folks streamed in kind of as the night progressed. People kind of got situated in their sleeping bags and their tarps. I was kind of the overnight monitor, so I was watching what was happening. It was a terrific scene in my view. I think we really built a community. We were in solidarity with one another. People like Linda Lamaster were there, David and Becky were there. I mean, really, the community activists who worked so long and so hard on things like this were there to support the people who were committed to stay overnight. So everybody got kind of settled in. And it was, it was wet, it was raining. Alex Drosy was there taking pictures. About 1:10